Hello everyone, I'm Uni FC and this is Blue Lions TV, and today I'm bringing you guys the match preview for our upcoming game against West Ham tomorrow at 12:30. Now, before I get into the video, just to remind you guys quickly, if you haven't pressed the bell notification button, please press that. It will only take you a few seconds, and stay notified to all things Blue Lions TV. But getting straight into the video, starting with West Ham. Now, West Ham do have David Moyes as their new manager. They have had a terrible, awful start to the Premier League season, and really just to let you guys know, the reason why these teams really crumble is when I feel they don't have an identity. Now, what do I mean by that? Identity doesn't necessarily mean they have to play amazing Barcelona football. No, just a team style. I keep stressing this point all the time. Football at the end of the day is about 11 players that complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the manager needs to find a system to really complement the players that he possesses. Now, when I look at West Ham, they have an abundance of players like your Lanzinis, who should be playing in a different system, maybe similar to like Liverpool, and they have Carroll, and they have Sarko and Hernandez. You know, you've got Carroll where you play long balls to. Hernandez is a guy, is a poacher. He plays on the last line. He needs service to really be effective at all. And they don't possess those abilities at all. Their build-up play is very poor, is very isolated, and you can really highlight a team's weakness when you look at their midfield. Now, with West Ham, they're too far away from the strikers, and there's too many holes in between the defence and the midfield. And really, David Moyes isn't a very inspiring managerial decision, in my opinion. I feel that the guy is too negative. Seeing his Sunderland team last year, he used 7 centre-backs at one game. 7. And a problem that David Moyes' teams have been facing is the fact that they don't really create enough goal-scoring opportunities or chances. And I think that's definitely the case at West Ham. I mean, to lose 4-0 to Everton, a team that have been equally poor so far this season, is not good enough. And it's really speaking volumes as to why they're not doing well now. When you look at West Ham individually, they have a lot of really good players. So my point of them not having a system or identity, I think, is the main reason why they're really struggling. Because again, you do need an identity to get service to your striker. You know, strikers really complement your system. You know, the type of service you provide to the striker really decides what type of team and what type of style that you use. And West Ham just don't possess anything like that. Now, with David Moyes, with his negativity, it's so obvious that he will be using a back five against us. And I know that this tactic is used quite a lot in this league, and I know sometimes it might be boring to hear, but I think that he will be using a flat back five system. It will have the midfielders very compact and deep with the defence, and I think that they're going to allow us to have the flanks, and he just wants to be very compact and tight in the middle, because the reason why teams of this nature and stature do decide to use this tactic at times is because it really prevents runs in from behind. Now, with Chelsea, we have a lot of movement, especially with the wing backs very wide. That provides a lot of movement in behind for the front three or front two to make. And it provides access for midfield players to make deep runs in behind. Now, if you're very tight and compact, you're not letting anything in behind you. You're keeping your shape, and you're basically trying to force the play out wide. Why? Because when you force it out wide, you want the team to either spam in across or play it back into midfield. And that's what West Ham want. And honestly, I'm not expecting anything inspiring, and it is a bit of a disappointment because they have a lot of great players. Your Lanzinis, your Arnautovic's, Hernandez is very good. You know, their defense is decent, okay as well. And honestly, it's their own fault because, again, in the transfer market, the players they've signed, they've just signed random good players. Now, I keep making this point that you can sign all the best players in the world, but if you don't have that system that's going to get the best out of them, nothing's going to happen. And I think that really sums up West Ham, and it really sums up the Premier League. For example, when Spurs did something similar when they got rid of Gareth Bale, they signed a completely random amount of players. For example, using Paulinho in a midfield too, and he's a guy that's box to box and likes to get forward. That makes no sense to me. You've got your Ericssons in there. They had no real identity after that, and they really struggled because of it. West Ham's only real advantage is that they are pretty physically strong. They have a lot of very big men in the team, and you know, when it comes to aerial plays and aerial set pieces especially, that's going to be an area that Moyes is going to hope that West Ham do exploit when it comes to playing against us. And at times, not very often though, but sometimes at times, we can be a bit susceptible to being overpowered. Now when I say this point, it's not as if it's a very common thing. It happens very rarely, but I'm saying at times we can be susceptible in moments, so I do expect West Ham to try and defend very aggressively in their own half. Actually no, they don't really press as a team, they like to stand off and keep their shape, and again, it really highlights David Moyes' negativity and lack of tactical awareness. Now the biggest issue with West Ham, I feel, is their midfield, because it's not very dynamic. I don't even like that word, dynamic. There's just no real control. I feel like the midfielders don't really know what they're supposed to be doing, and obviously to counter that, Moyes likes to flood defenders at the back. Now I know that in the last game they were using a back five system. They will be using the wing backs to try and get forward, and you know, off the ball they're going to have the wide players like Lanzini dropping deep to make a 4 in midfield to try and be even more compact and even more defensive. But the thing is, playing this type of football means that eventually you do get tired, because again, when you do have to provide some type of counter attacks, players have to make runs, and they have to make maybe 60-70 yard runs to try and support the play. After time, if you're constantly moving and running, you do get tired, and this is where they do become exploitable in behind, especially when their midfielders aren't really a naturally defensive type of midfielders to really, you know, get in those good positions to really help defensively. I feel that this is where we'll have the advantage. Now I think with this game, personally, we have to really dominate and win. I think if we didn't get 3 points, it would be one of the most criminal things to ever happen this season. It would be absolutely awful. Now, I was making this point earlier about possession play, stretching them, tiring them out. With Chelsea, we do like to play very directly, and to be honest, our direct play this year has been much better by having Eden Hazard and Morata up front. Now personally, I'm hoping that Conte will stick to using a 3-5-2. If you haven't seen my previous Predict That 11 video where I have said that as well, definitely watch that. But I'm hoping 3-5-2 will be the answer, because with Fabregas potentially having a free role where he have the license to run, the midfield runner's been able to make late runs in behind as well. Plus, having Hazard, Morata collecting the ball in those central areas, keeping onto it, is really going to bring a lot of our players into the game. And with having 3 in midfield, we do get that midfield control where our possession play does become greater and we don't give the ball away as easily. So I'm hoping that will be the case, because we can definitely stretch defenses with Hazard and Morata, because with Hazard collecting the ball, the minute he touches it, he's immediately attracting 2 or 3 players. So he's already creating space, especially because Hazard does have that license to really roam across the front 3. And this is where we have space for midfield runners to run into, especially when you have a more advanced as Fabregas, where teams will have to try and close them down. That gives more freedom for the third midfielder man. Might be Bakayoko, I'm hoping it's Drinkwater, to really exploit that space in behind and make the runs that really creates even more space for our other attackers to run into. So in my opinion, there's been certain times where maybe I do get a bit overly confident, because I do try to look at things in the most logical case and solutions, and sometimes against certain teams I just can't see how we'll lose a game. But the beautiful thing about football is that, you know, luck does play a big part at times. It could be down to the referee, it could be down to a wonder strike, it could be down to poor finishing. There are a lot of variables that, you know, even though logically you're doing all the right things in the game, with football logic could be thrown out the window, so you never know. But I do think that sometimes it's good to look at tactics and systems to get a good understanding of how a game is going to play out and what type of advantages you're going to be getting in the game. But I really feel with our style of play, we should really be getting a very big win against West Ham, especially because they leave their striker very isolated. And if anything, it could be an issue where, do we necessarily have to use a back 3? Of course, it's just really more for debate and worth thinking about, because certain teams like your West Ham, their strikers don't really get any support. They usually tend to have to stay a bit deeper to help defend. I think we saw that in the Swansea game. They were extremely negative, with Boney pushing into midfield at times to help support. It gets you thinking, do we even really need 3 at the back all the time? And now of course with Conte, 3 at the back isn't necessarily that all the time, because Azpilicueta can push into midfield and provide some attacking impetus. But I do feel at times that if we had an extra attacker with that midfield that we do have, would that give us greater fluidity in the attack and greater numbers to really get at teams? It is something worth thinking about. But at the same time, you know what I'd personally like to see? I would like to see Conte giving Christensen a bit more freedom to push out now. But how the system works it's like layers when we defend. You know, it starts with the strikers, then your midfielders with the wing backs, and then you have your defense, and then it's like the sweeper, or not traditional sweeper anymore, but the guy in the middle of the back three stays deeper behind them. When we play on the ball, the guy who's in the middle in the back three will stay deepest, because Conte wants the guy who has got the best footballing ability as a defender in terms of composure, playing out from the back, being the last line of defense, because again, he becomes that passing outlet where when you do need to pass back, he's able to keep that composure and recycle possession and keep things ticking. But at times, you know, it would be nice to see Christensen with a bit more freedom, because, you know, this guy at Borussia Mönchengladbach was constantly making runs into midfield and carrying the ball. He's got the ability to do that. It'd be nice for his overall play to see that type of thing, but again, it's more like hypothetical things. Maybe in the future Conte may decide to do something like that, but honestly, I think that West Ham really have no chance against us at all. I think tactically we're going to dominate them. A lot of our players are in very good form. Even though we didn't beat Atletico Madrid, we still dominated them, and it was a very good performance. I'm expecting a big win. I'm going to go for 4-0 against West Ham. I see Eden Hazard getting on the score sheet. I think we'll get 2 goals. I think Morata will get another goal as well. And I see us scoring from a set piece as well. But anyway, you guys, that's going to be the match preview for our game against West Ham. Are you guys feeling as confident as I am? I hope you are, because West Ham have been pretty poor. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm NearlyFC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.